Guys, welcome back to Rodder's Garage. As you can tell, the 58 is back on the hoist down at the shop, and we are ready to get this thing wrapped up. We need to put our entire wiring harness in here, finish up the brake lines on it, and some other small details to make this thing roadworthy. Check out the bed in this thing. I wanted to show you that. A couple videos ago, I ended up ripping and datoing and fitting all this black walnut in the bed of this truck, and man, did that really turn out awesome. The depth of it is amazing. This is actually unstained black walnut, and it is basically just buried in a car clear coat to give it this super deep shine. It really turned out amazing. The camera really doesn't do it justice. Hopefully you can see that, but that really turned out amazing. Other than that, we are pretty much, now the truck is pretty much like 92% done here. We need to do, like I said, wiring, brake lines, and some other small details to wrap this thing up. Moving up under the hood, obviously we got to wire the whole engine compartment, headlights, marker lights. We got a small block in here with a small B&M supercharger on it. Most everything is hooked up in here already. All the accessory drive is done. The headers are on. Do have to do exhaust on this thing yet as well, but clutch master, everything is pretty much hooked up, so we're pretty close to having this thing done. Let's get it up in the air and start attacking this brake system. Get everything done we can underneath, and then we'll lower it back down, get it off the hoist, push back over here by the door so I can open the doors on it without smashing them into stuff, and we'll get this thing wired and fired. Alright guys, so obviously we finished up last night with getting all the brake lines on this thing and shoved up under the hood. Basically the only thing left on the brake line system is to hook it up to the master cylinder after I set the depth of the master cylinder plunger to booster up top, but I figured I'd wait on that till we let this thing back down. So as you can tell, I got my exhaust on here. The request was 3-inch exhaust, and basically the pipe bender I have over there, which I'm staring right into the light now, but the pipe bender really can't bend a good bend on 3-inch. You end up with something like this right here. Basically, you can't really bend over like 20 degrees on this machine without basically kinking 3-inch pipe like this really bad on the corners like that. So I opted to use one of these donuts here and basically just take pie cuts out of it with the old Portaband, and we end up with something like this right here, where we have nice tight bends. Looks a little better. It's a lot more welding, obviously, but I am going to TIG weld all these seams. Everything's just tacked into place right now up to the collectors, and that does just look a lot better. Plus, the radiuses are so much tighter than obviously like the one we just saw on the bender over there. Plus, we don't have all that crushing going on the top side. There's really no way around that, unless I wanted to cap all the ends of my pipe and fill it with sand, or unless you had a mandrel bender. So we're gonna go this route on here, and it looks pretty good the way it is right now. Everything's set up, and the mufflers are 100% the same distance inboard and 100% the same distance from the floor pan down currently, and the hangers are in the exact same spot on both sides. I like these hangers too, these rod style, basically weld-ons where they bolt to the chassis or frame or body. I really like those ones. They hold really well. So basically I got this into place and I'm ready to pull this out and start TIG welding it, but I figured I might as well just finish the tailpipes right away. No, I'm not welding in the muffler yet. No, I'm just asking.
Oh yeah, right there is tight, and if I come down a little bit.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put a couple spacers in it, and then we'll get it tacked to the muffler. What happens if you let go? Oh, perfect. Yeah, that'll work. Alright guys, so I came in this morning and went ahead and TIG welded all the seams on my exhaust system here. As you can tell, last night I had a little bit of help from Mikey locating the tips where they come out under the running boards on the side. We got those matched up perfectly, identical side to side. Those actually turned out pretty nice too, the way that 3-inch pipe came into this tip. You couldn't ask for really a better fit on that. Yeah, they're a little bit older, they're a little scratched up, but you know what? They're hidden for the most part anyway, under the running board, and they look pretty cool the way they come out the side, so it was a good choice for what we got going on here. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting this back up in the truck, get the collectors in and these hangers in. We're gonna clock them correctly, and then I gotta add one more hanger on each side, somewhere out closer to the tip to keep it from tipping or rocking under the truck, and we'll probably do that somewhere inboard of the back running board here. Weld those on the pipes, and basically that's going to wrap up our exhaust system. After that, I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything under the truck, go through everything, make sure everything's tight and ready to hit the streets, grease and lubricate anything I need to, put some oil in the Tremec 5-speed and check the diff fluid. Make sure everything's pretty much wrapped up and checked under here. We also at some point have to tighten all the coilovers to achieve a good ride height, because they are basically backed all the way off front and rear at this point, so we'll have to throw some rate into the springs front and back. But we might do that a little bit later, like pretty much when it's done. I'm not sure yet on that one. Anyway, let's get this exhaust up there. Ooh, that's full. Good. So I got the 58 pushed off the hoist, and pretty much everything at this point in time is tightened up and ready to go underneath. The front suspension is all tightened up, adjusted the coilovers on the front as well. It does sit a little bit higher now, which is good. And you know what? I didn't even look underneath. Let's take a look quick. Yeah, we're pretty good right there. I gave it about, I don't know, about 1 3/4 compression on the spring, and as you can tell there, our lower control arm is pretty much parallel to the ground, which is exactly what we want. We want the lower control arm parallel to the ground at ride height with the weight of the vehicle on it, and that's where we want to get it aligned basically in the future. So that actually came out spot on. That's good. So with everything underneath being completed at this point in time, and you also saw that I just got the brake lines all attached to the master cylinder, custom bracket made here that bolted on with the master to hold my proportioning valve on the side, and I even welded the nuts on the back so they don't fall out if you ever have to remove it, so that's good. Adjustable proportioning for the rear brakes, obviously. Tighten everything up on the clutch and put a little bit of fluid in them, so that pretty much wrapped up the list that I had on this thing. The only things left are bleed the systems, the brake and clutch, do an alignment afterwards, torque the wheels, put coolant in it. Upper control arms, I got to change the nuts around on there, get the all metal locks on, not the normal nuts that are on it. And the biggest thing, put the heater in it, heat, and wire it. Let's get on that next. All right, guys, well, we left off with me pushing the truck back here off the hoist. And basically it was time for wiring at that point. I went ahead for the last 3 days and just did it all off camera. I think that wiring stuff's a little bit boring. It's super dark inside the truck, kind of hard to see, and I really didn't feel like messing around with the GoPro, moving it all over with the magnet and whatever else underneath the dash and scratching everything up. So I went ahead and wired this thing. As you can tell, I have quite the mess over here on the floor. All my tools and everything I just pushed off to the side, got some wiring to go through, see if I want to save anything, stuff like that. That's the old harness right here, which, by the way, was just done like 2 years ago, and it really wasn't much of anything. But if we go look at the inside of the truck, so as you can see, I have the carpet installed in the truck. On the back side here, I just put some thinner black carpet in just to black that out, because that was all foil-faced sound deadener on the back of this thing. So we did that on the back. Also, the carpet was short of the floorboard there. You can see I added a piece down here too. One thing I'm probably going to end up doing is making an aluminum, basically sill plate to come over and clamp this carpet down. Originally, they didn't have that, but we're probably going to do it just to finish this edge off a little bit nicer. Probably going to be one of the last things I do on it. Coming over here, looking up under the dash, you can also see the firewall got blacked out with that thin black carpet as well. You can see our mini Gen 3 vintage air heater box in there, and if you look up, I did have to notch out the glove box to clear the fan motor on that, because I wanted to tuck the heater up under the dash as far as I could. So basically had to cut the glove box out a little. Let's take a look at that. Didn't really lose too much room here. That's what we ended up with, so not too bad, not too big of a room loss on that one. And basically, if we look up under here, all the wiring's complete. I basically taped everything up with friction tape. That's usually what I use for my harnesses. All the way down to the other side. Everything is hooked up and complete at this time. And as you can probably tell at this angle, this is why I didn't film any of this. Kind of would have been a pain in the butt to get that camera under here while I was trying to mess around with all this wiring stuff, because there was enough stuff to hook up. If we move up to the dash here, Underneath dead center, we have our vintage air heater controls. We have our stereo. Basically, I dead centered all that stuff up. Cigarette lighter was already installed by Mikey, but I did wire that one up. We have our Tri-5 gauge cluster installed and hooked up, hopefully correct. It was kind of hard to find info on that for the wiring schematic, and even when I did find it, it was kind of vague, but I'm pretty sure I got it right. Over there, basically, we just have our wiper switch and our headlight switch. So that's pretty much it for the dashboard. As for the carpet itself, the main piece of carpet here, it laid out okay, and you can see how dark it is in here. I don't really have good enough lighting, but you can see that turned out pretty nice. I'm going to leave it in here overnight. I was thinking about doing the seats tonight, but I'm not going to. I'm going to wait. Hopefully that carpet laxes out a little bit more and forms down. Basically, I pulled it tight out here on the edges and glued just the outside 3 inches to the floor and pulled it really tight, so hopefully it settles down a little bit overnight. It already did in the last 2 hours since I got done with it, so maybe taking the heat gun to it a little too to kind of form it around these cross members wouldn't be a bad idea. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the inside of the cab. If we take a quick look with the flashlight over here under the hood too, basically you can see here's my heater hoses. There's the Mini Gen 3 heater control valve. I do have to secure those yet to the fender on this side. And basically for the wiring, everything is loomed in that friction tape, like I said. And it's pretty simple under here. We have our distributor hooked up in the back. Obviously we have our choke hooked up there, up on the side of the carb. Alternator is hooked up over here on this side. And basically after that, it's just oil pressure in the back, water temp right here on the front, loomed out in that friction tape. This is our whole headlight harness, or our whole front harness here coming out of the firewall and back. You can see I got a grommet there. We got taillight section going straight down, engine section obviously going towards the engine, and this is our headlight one coming up to the front. Headlights go individually through the fender wells. We have our fan control hooked up, horns are hooked up, and basically just our cooling fan up here at the top, along with the probe that's inside the heater hose for the actual fan controller unit. So yeah, quite a bit of stuff got done over the last couple of days, but as you could tell from the lighting while I was showing you guys that, first of all, that would have been kind of a pain. And basically, like I said, putting the camera under that dash and doing all that stuff, trying not to scratch the paint up, I just figured we'll just skip that part. Plus, kind of boring, really. Oh, one other thing, I put dome light switches in it too, down here in the dark once more. Put some aftermarket dome switches in there to control the actual dome light in the thing. Otherwise it would have just been on the headlight switch. Anyway, basically at this point I'm ready to put this thing back on the hoist and finish the taillight section and any wiring on the transmission. The transmission just has the VSS, the vehicle speed sensor, backup lights, which I did run a hot wire underneath to have backup lights, and neutral safety. There's actually a neutral safety on this transmission that we have to hook up yet too. So I'm gonna push this thing back on the hoist, start fresh in the morning on finishing up the bottom side of this thing. Maybe tonight, not sure, probably tomorrow. Down. See it?
Yep. You're through. Oh yeah.
All right, well, we left off, for me, about a couple weeks ago, putting the holes in the carpet and getting the seats installed here in the 58. And after that point, I got it running. You guys didn't get to hear it yet, but I did get the thing running. We had a little bit of brake issues, so I actually had to change out that little cheap Chinese brake booster that was in here. Pretty much because most of the time those are garbage anyway. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So this thing wouldn't stop. It actually seemed to stop really well. I took it for one ride around the block, punched the brakes hard to see if I could lock them up, see if they work. And then after that, it never really stopped again. So I went ahead and bought myself a 2000 S10 brake booster. And the brand new master cylinder we installed on here too was leaking out of the bore into the non-working booster. So went to a GM master and an S10 GM booster, and this thing stops on a dime now. Let's take a real quick look at it. I know it's dark. We're gonna go outside and I'm gonna give you guys a better look at everything. But yeah, switched out to a bigger S10 booster and this master, and this thing stops on a dime now. Runs really good too, which is what we're going to do now. I'm gonna take this thing out, we'll get it in some sunlight. It is really dirty. I don't know, maybe we'll run to the car wash real quick and wash it. But I'm gonna take this thing out today. I'm gonna show you guys the finishing work on the inside of the truck. We'll take one last walk around. We're gonna go drive it a little bit, and then I'm gonna go pick Mikey up because I want this out of here because it just keeps getting dustier and dustier, and it's time for it to go. It's pretty much done. I had an alignment done last night. Drives really nice, so that's enough of that. Let's get the thing out of here and go take a peek at it in the sunlight and go for a ride. Alright guys, this is pretty much going to be it at this point. Gonna go pick Mikey up after this. I drove out here on a country road about 1.5 miles from the shop just so we can take one final walk around of this thing outside. This truck really turned out nice. The stance is nice. It sounds great with that 3-inch pipe on there. The 5-speed, that Tremec in there makes the thing just really fun to drive, having that in there. One good look at the bed floor here. That's just that black walnut from the last video. No stain on it, just car clear coats over the plain black walnut, and it got that amazing deep finish on it. Just looks like it's buried, just super deep finish. That really turned out awesome in here as well. Mike clear coated all that at his place, the wood, after we got done installing it a couple videos ago, and yeah, the thing just turned out really good. It drives nice, and basically at this point I'm gonna go ahead and get back in this thing, and we're gonna head on over to Mike's, pick him up, and see what he thinks of how it rides. And honestly, that little supercharger on that small block powers it pretty good. It gets up and goes when you get on the throttle. So let's cruise over to his house. It's about I don't know, 8 miles, 10 miles that away. Pick him up, get a little more road time on it, see how he likes it. All right, let's go pick Mike up. It's so smooth through the gears, though. It's enjoyable.
Cruising at 61 right now.
Yeah, well, it's showing 64, so you're 3 miles an hour off. Dude, that exhaust sounds awesome on here.
It's loud, but it's not. It's not horrible.
Right. This wheel could be a little bit bigger.
Yeah, you know, for some reason it looks a lot smaller now than
It
when I
feels
bought it.
small. It feels like you're kind of a little bit more involved with it, you know?
That's an easy change.
Yeah.
The horn still
Oh, you got
work?
plenty of room.
Does the horn still work?
Yep. Press of the button will cycle display. Calibrate. We went out on a back road to actually try to set the speedometer in the thing, and as we were sitting there, first of all, we noticed we were getting interference from the tach signal into the speedometer. Well, I never really had that problem before. I did run the tach wire up in the harness with the VSS sensor on this thing, and I've done that many times. But for some reason, this one was getting big interference coming in. I even had the ground and the feed from the VSS twisted like you're supposed to. But for some reason on here, it kept interfering with it. And then, as we were trying to set the speedometer, the truck died out. Just quit, no spark, totally lost spark. So we were playing around with it a little bit on the back road that day. It fired back up about 20 minutes later. I figured the module was going bad in the HEI distributor on the thing. And I came back down here, I segregated or separated the actual tach wire from the distributor, ran it separately through the firewall, got it out of the harness so it wouldn't interfere with the VSS anymore. That took care of that. I was no longer getting stray pulses into the speedometer. And then I changed the module in the distributor, went out and drove the truck again, and it wouldn't really come up over 2,800 Rs. Basically at 2,800 RPMs, 3 grand, it would start cutting out like your points, like you had bad points in a points distributor. So I told Mike, I said, get a whole new distributor for this thing. So he brought a different one, we replaced it, and everything is good. Yeah, we drove it around for quite a while after replacing the distributor. We got the speedometer set in the thing, and it kind of makes me wonder, actually, if that distributor was bad, if the pickup was bad in it. It couldn't have been the module because I changed that, but if that was bad, was that why I was getting those pulses into my speedometer? Because I've never had that happen before, and there was obviously something screwed up with the distributor in there. I don't know, if you've ever heard of that, let me know. I really don't know why that did it in here, and I kind of would have been curious if I would have changed the whole distributor first, would that straight pulsing have gone away into my VSS wires? Not really sure. But long story short, let's take a look at this thing real quick, because I am going to go pick Mike up today again for the second time, and he's going to drive me back over here, and he's taking this thing home. It is done now. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to stop and get a little more gas. All right, well, we are fueled up. Let's go. So you are gonna throw those in the bed?
No, I'm gonna put them on the carpet and then I'll clean the carpet when I get home.
Should have brought floor mats.
Yep. Alright.
All right, well, see you later. Oh. All right, well, that is the end of the 58. It just went home. So I'm sure we'll be seeing the truck again at some point in time. The one thing left on the list was I had the wrong fuel sending unit in it. It needed a 30 ohm fuel sending unit. That's what they had it set up for. And we used a 280 ohm one. So the fuel gauge is off. Other than that, everything was completed on the truck. So maybe we'll take another cruise in it again in the future. We're at least going to replace the fuel sending unit next spring sometime. But at this point in time up here, it's time to put that thing away. Almost time to put it away for the winter. So I'm sure we'll be seeing it again. But yeah, that's the end of the 58. Turned out awesome. Drives really nice. Mike's pretty happy with it. Turned out great. Thanks guys for watching. Appreciate it. We got some more projects coming up here in the future. That was a 68 Riviera, that's the chassis. We'll be doing that one, kind of putting that all back together. We're doing fuel injection on it. Bunch of floor pan and metal work on that one. I also started on this 28 Dodge Roadster. We're gonna be doing that in the future as well. Also gotta put the rest of this 51 Chevy together over here at some point too. That's probably next on the list, so you'll probably be seeing that one as it goes together and gets completed. Anyway, thanks guys for watching, appreciate it. Till next time.